Democratic governor has signed into law, signs a law punishing HIV transmission with up to 10 years in prison. That sounds very sort of against the typical Democratic way of looking at things. Why is a Democrat signing this law?
So this is a sad step backward. We have seen movement to undo some of the damage that has been done in the past when it comes to HIV patients and individuals who are living with that. We've seen a lot of advances on the medical front. We've seen a lot of, changes in the survivability and the halting of transmission of HIV. So to have Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf sign a law that makes it a felony to pass on a communicable disease really that's a step backward for mostly HIV patients specifically, but it is a step backward for anyone who may have a communicable disease and they pass it along. I mean, when we're talking about the situation that we have just been working through for the last 2 years, if someone has COVID, they know they have COVID, and they go into a space and they expose others, that now basically opens them up for criminal charges. The law known as HB 103 would punish people with up to 7 years in prison and $15,000 in fines for expelling saliva, blood, or another bodily fluid onto a police officer. While the offense is a third-degree felony and it has to be intentional, basically, if somebody spit on an officer, if somebody were bleeding on an officer, I mean, I'm not saying this happens, but let's say an officer gets overly aggressive and somehow causes bleeding in the person they're trying to apprehend.
Mm.
Now that could be compounded by this law. So what we're seeing is this is definitely moving toward specifically targeting individuals who interact with police, but it could be expanded in other ways to include a wider population.
All in all,
Now,
it seems, yeah, like you said, it seems like a going the wrong direction. It's interesting. I understand the need to consider the weaponization of disease, essentially. So if you're a known carrier, you can weaponize that, and so I understand where that's coming from. But the one thing that does kind of comfort me about this is it's going to be very difficult to prove in those cases, like the intentionality. I think that's going to hinder a lot of folks being prosecuted on this.
well, yes, but no. The problem that we are going to see is that these type of laws have disproportionately been used to target men and transgender people of color. And they are the ones who tend to not have the same level of representation, legally speaking. And so when they come before the court, even though the argument could be, were you intentionally spitting on this individual? If they do not have adequate legal support, many of them are getting public defenders. Remember that.
Yeah.
They're not going to get that adequate support. And so it'd be very easy to see this law once more coming into play when it comes to disproportionately affecting Black men, Asian men, transgender women of color.
So white folks who have the financial means to hire better lawyers are going to be able to get off this, and minorities again are still going to fall victim to it.
Oh, and just add to that if you are a white middle-aged person, they probably won't even bring it up.